Peace to the family. Then I want to rap a little bit about melanin and AI. First of all, in all transparency, I want to tell you where the question and the thought process, where it comes from. Recently, I was on a application and it was wanting me to create an avatar for the, I guess they call it a thumbnail. But anyhow, being a person that is, highly melanated and with the condition of vitiligo, the avatar that was created by the artificial intelligence looked nothing like me. It didn't represent the condition of vitiligo. I think it was, I would say, from grading from excellent to poor, excellent, good, fair, poor. I think that it represented my skin tone, fair. Poor in terms of an actual representation of who I am, right? So this further prompted me to go into my real memory banks. Maybe about 6 or 7 years ago, on Al Jazeera, a news core company based in Doha, Qatar. They had a special on about facial recognition amongst melanated people, African people. And it said that it was least accurate in determining physical phenotypes between African American women, darker women, melanated women, African American women, African Caribbean women. I was also prompted by knowing those to ask AI, specifically Gemini, did it affect Asian women, Asian people as well? And yes, they are included in the subgroup that is not represented proportionally, right? The reason that it gave was AI, something called algorithmic bias. Algorithmic bias in the sense that the information that is in the system that runs these particular AI platforms, I don't know what to call it, a brain, whatever, has bias because it doesn't fully represent melanated beings in its database to produce images, right? Due to hair texture, an implicit bias towards melanated people, right? So I asked myself, what are the consequences of the algorithm having this algorithmic bias? The first would obviously be in terms of identifying suspects and potential suspects in criminal investigations, right? That would be surface. But let's take this a little further. What if the algorithm bias goes into your searches, what you're searching for, right? What if melanated people, when they're searching AI based on auditory speech patterns of melanated people, you get different information, right? Is that a possibility? Well, there are studies, and there have been studies done by leading research institutions where they have people of different ethnicities speaking, and they try to find out whether the person is a melanated person or whether that person is a Euro or a white person, a European person. And I'm sure, they take into account the different accents, the regional accents of persons, the country of origin of persons in these studies to determine if this person is a melanated being or a non-melanated being, right? So this is just a cursory look into the tool that we have at our disposal of artificial intelligence, machine intelligence. And there's also a documentary on Al Jazeera about AI and machine intelligence. It gives the birth of the birth record and the evolution of what we know as AI today. So again, my premise is always rooted in seminal work of Dr. Neely Fuller, the United Code Compensatory Thought textbook for victims of white supremacy, right? And in the 9 areas of people activity, AI, artificial intelligence, it falls in all of those 9 areas of people activity. And I would specifically say that I would put this in the category of warfare, because the control of information, the flows of information, is definitely a move that is used to control populations, right? Large populations, small populations, populations in general. Again, as outlined in The Matrix. For The Matrix, it was 1984, George Orwell. Animal Farm, George Orwell. Even in the works of Octavia Butler, Parable of the Sower, all of her works, a lot of works in terms of Afrofuturism can be referenced to expand the questioning of artificial intelligence, and with the personalities that are involved in artificial intelligence, such as South African-born Elon Musk, with his grok, with his, if this man is behind it, what type of bias does grok have? And I think recently some evidence has come out that that particular instrument has some racial biases embedded in its programming. So as a melanated person, how accurate of a tool is artificial intelligence in my daily life? How much is it a tool? How much is it a handicap, right? Not only is it a handicap, but it can be a tool of surveillance, right? When you look at your browser history, the history of your searches, it reveals thought modalities. It shows different behaviors, both positive and also some of your deviant behaviors, things that you wouldn't necessarily want everybody knowing, you know. So thusly we have data harvesting. Your information, whether it's your information or not, when you put it out onto the public platform of these artificial intelligence programs, right? And who has the ability to see what you've been searching? You know, are you searching high level nuclear technology, subversive, what they would call subversive activities via the internet? And who is the watchdog of the internet and artificial intelligence, right? So, not to vibrate on the negative frequency so much, I find AI to be a pretty good tool in terms of second language activity. One of my professions is as an ESL professor, and I used to encourage my students to have a digital language laboratory, you know, to build vocabulary, to learn cultural concepts, things that allow a non-native speaker to I don't like to use the word acculturate. I don't want to use the word assimilate, but become more familiar and to blend in into the culture that they're alien to. And for me, knowing that language is power and the choice of words is important, you know, in terms of being an effective communicator, AI can be used as a tool. For me personally, I'm married to a woman that speaks French. My wife and my child both speak French, along with Bambara, and probably a little Dafi, the language of a group of people in Burkina Faso. I found that I can practice French with Gemini. And if you are a ESL professor, or you're someone that is, you know, attempting to acquire some language, some foreign language, second language skills, AI is a very useful tool in terms of doing that, right? I have a neighbor that's a federal agent, I know several. And he was saying that, basically, and I disagree with his premise, that AI now is basically a translator, and basically he was saying that foreign language acquisition is basically obsolete. I would tend to disagree. I would say that this guy is probably dealing with the homeland of the United States. But even in the United States, I also work as a political canvasser. I found in certain populations that being polyglottal is quite helpful. Where I am, I've ran into large populations of West Africans just doing political canvassing and being able to talk to them a little bit in their native language, where I would say their colonial language and not their tribal language. Some of the tribal languages I can get down a little bit in Bambara, Mandinka, and sometimes some of the guys, I guess they're from Gambia, they would say Sowinke as well. Those are just some of the languages that I learned, some small conversational concepts, such as greetings, basic things like how do you go to town, dealing almost up to directional things in some of those West African languages. And living in West Africa, I did pick up some of those languages to a small degree, basic greetings. Because a lot of times they'll be checking you out, you know what I'm saying, to see what your ethnic identity is. And this will be my next search. My next thing will be I'm going to test AI to see how much of those African languages, West African languages, that they really have in their database, or is it an algorithmic bias in terms of proto African languages, from the West African languages to the Cordoffian, Congo languages, because those languages in Central Africa, say we talking about Congo, Rwanda, over to East Africa and down to Southern Africa, Kiswahili and Zulu have very similar type features. And I wonder what AI is in regard to those languages as well. Because for me, when you have information that's out there in terms of the internet, in situations like Burkina Faso and Cote d'Ivoire and Mali, Niger, Chad, they're speaking their local languages. And if they're trying to communicate en masse, they'll probably be speaking French. But if they are trying to, keep it in the family, they're going to speak their local languages. And I wonder if AI will be able to infiltrate into those local languages. My prayer is that no. I think that, the best way for language acquisition is via mouth to ear, to the heart. So that the conversations remain private. And finally, I'll deal with one instance. I was talking to one of my Zoes, one of my Haitian compadres. We were out there political canvassing, and there were two African-American sisters that was with us, and we were really trying to have a private conversation. So our conversation went into Creole, right? Began to speak Creole, my West African Creolized Francais, and his it eludes me right now. His in his Creole, his Haitian Creole. We started having a conversation, and one of the sisters was just like, "Oh, it's so impolite to speak a foreign language in front of other people, you know." And I was like, "That sound like white folks, man. White people sound like these people." Pardon. And I was like, we've used that for years, to remain private in the conversations, right? And I would say, just get your polyglot game up. You know what I'm saying? This is how it goes. I remember years ago, I would be in the African braid shop, and I would, the sisters would be talking or whatever, and at the time I did have hair. They'd be talking, I let them talk. And then I would respond to them a certain way, in their language or whatever. And they'd be like, "Huh? What? C'est quoi ça?" I said, "Uh-huh." I said, petit. Yeah, but really knowing a little bit more. And that's just how that went down, It's always good to have those skills. I had a homie that was very adept at speaking Spanish. So, again, for me, one of the best tools of AI is language acquisition. And again, those particular dialects and voice patterns, different ways to recognize localized language patterns. Say, for example, the people of Cote d'Ivoire, the people of Ivory Coast, their French is different than the Senegalese. They're from the people of Senegal, Dakar, whatever. Yes, when they speak, say bon français. When they're speaking what they call bon français, they are able to understand people totally. When they're using, I think, when I say bon français, good French, that means that they're switching up, they're code switching to Parisian dialect versus an African dialect, because there is some racism in terms of that particular language group using the familiar form versus the formal form. That exists in all language, but more prevalently in those languages, those Romance languages. But as far as the English, United States English, we don't have that much. But again, I digress. But artificial intelligence as a tool or as a surveillance tool. I'm exploring this subject. Like, subscribe, comment, add your thoughts to some of the things that I'm talking about, and see if we can get a good build out of it. I want to say thank you to my subscribers. Thank you for those that are watching the video. Continue to vibrate, continue to shine. A day without learning is a day without living. So live your life to the fullest. Can I say peace?